People arrested on suspicion of scamming investors through fake securities firms. Police investigations into a suspected murder case continue. And Trump says American and Iranian officials will hold talks next week. Welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. Police have arrested 8 people on suspicion of scamming investors through fake local and overseas security firms. Authorities say the 2 scam cases in question involve a total of $46 million. Mimo Singhai reports.
Police say the 8 suspects in 2 separate cases used similar scam tactics. Scammers pretended to be from local and overseas securities firms, sent multiple phishing messages to victims, saying their accounts would be frozen because they failed to update their tax information. Some fake hyperlinks were included in the messages. Victims were directed to phishing websites after clicking the links. Once they entered their account information, the scammers were able to log in their accounts. The scammers then persuaded the victims to provide official verification codes sent by securities firms that will allow scammers to take control of the accounts and sell the victims' assets in their investment portfolios. Scammers would purchase low-volume stocks on the market and reap a profit through market manipulation. The police arrested 4 men on suspicion of conspiring to defraud. Between May and Wednesday, the force received 137 reports from scam victims whose losses ranged from $1,000 to $2.9 million. Meanwhile, in the case involving fake overseas securities firms, 3 men and 1 woman were arrested on suspicion of conspiring to defraud and money laundering.
Our investigation so far show no linkage between the 2 cases, and we are now still investigating whether there is any syndication involved.
Sources say the names of several local well-known securities firms were being used in the scam. Mimo Singhai, TVB News.
Police continue to investigate the suspected murder of a 49-year-old woman of non-Chinese descent. Police retrieved some objects from the sea near Tai Kok Tsui, but they were not body parts. The male suspect in the case has reportedly fled to Vietnam. Earlier today, officers searched a landfill in Tuen Mun. The woman went missing last Saturday and was suspected of being murdered. Over 100 officers went to the Nim Wan landfill in Tuen Mun to search for evidence this morning. Some police officers put on white protective gear, bringing along hose and other tools for the search, which continued in the afternoon. The woman was last seen entering a tenement building on Castle Peak Road in Chung Sha Wan. The police earlier said it would not rule out the possibility that a man of non-Chinese descent murdered the missing woman following a dispute over money. All tropical cyclone warning signals were canceled in the early afternoon. At 2 p.m., the tropical depression over the Leizhou Peninsula was centered around 430 kilometers west-southwest of Hong Kong and is forecast to move northwest at about 15 kilometers per hour. The rain bands associated with it will still bring squalls to the territory today. There will also be swells. The observatory has urged the public to stay away from the shoreline and not to engage in water sports. U.S. President Donald Trump says American and Iranian officials will hold talks next week, and he will likely seek a commitment from Iran to end its nuclear ambitions. Iran has so far not acknowledged any talks taking place next week. Trump also says the U.S. has not given up its maximum pressure on Iran, including restrictions on the sale of Iranian oil. But he signaled a potential easing in enforcement to help the country rebuild. Tracy Furness has more.
During a news conference at a NATO summit in The Hague, President Trump rejected an early intelligence assessment that U.S. strikes inflicted only a marginal setback on Iran's nuclear program, insisting his country's spies did not have the full picture. He defended his own swift conclusion that American bombs and missiles delivered a crushing blow.
They presented a report that wasn't finished. We're talking about something that took place 3 days ago. Now, if you take a look at the pictures, if you take a look how it's all blackened, you know the fire and brimstone is all underground because it's granite and it's all underground. You don't show it. But even there, with all of that being said, the whole area for 75 yards around the hole where it hit is black with fire. It's been obliterated, totally obliterated.
Trump met with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and when asked about the Israel and Iran conflict, Trump compared it to kids in a playground.
They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to
get strong language. Everyone's so
Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, visited the Élysée Palace Wednesday for a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. Macron told reporters he would discuss with Grossi during the meeting his assessment of damage to Iran's nuclear facilities after the US strikes. The Associated Press understands the pair discuss ways to strengthen compliance with international non-proliferation standards, and Macron reaffirmed his support for IAEA in its efforts to ensure nuclear safety and security worldwide. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
NATO leaders have voted to officially raise the bloc's defense spending target to 5% of their GDP with a commitment to mutual defense. The hike fulfills a long-standing demand from Donald Trump, who claims the U.S. was paying more than its fair share. Officials confirmed Spain is granted spending flexibility as long as it meets the capability target, while Trump threatened to double tariffs on Spain. Danny Zhou has details.
In a summit communique agreed on Wednesday, allies pledged to invest 5% of their GDP annually in defense and related sectors over the next 10 years. The Western military bloc said it was united in the face of profound challenges, in particular the long-term threat posed by Russia to Euro-Atlantic security. Its Secretary General Mark Rutte hailed the agreement as transformational.
Together, allies have laid the foundations for a stronger, fairer and more lethal NATO. NATO leaders agreed on the The Hague Defence Investment Plan. And this will fuel a quantum leap in our collective defence.
The hike in defence spending marks a major revamp of the alliance in more than a decade, even though not all member states have met the current 2% guideline. The 5% target is made up of at least 3.5% of their country's economic output that should be spent on core defence, mainly troops and weapons, by 2035. And 1.5% of their GDP will be dedicated to broader defense-related measures, including cybersecurity, emergency healthcare, justice and critical infrastructure, in a bid to ensure civil preparedness and resilience. While some have voiced reservations, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez stated before the summit that his country would spend 2.1% of its GDP on defense, no more, no less, as rushing toward 5% could undermine social spending. US President Donald Trump singled out Spain, accusing it of seeking a little bit of a free ride. Trump warned he could make Spain pay twice as much the tariffs to the United States for a trade deal. To bring Madrid on board, NATO has allowed its spending flexibility without having to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, as long as it meets the bloc's updated capability target goal approved earlier this month. Allies also agreed to submit to stricter requirements with a spending review in 2029, after the next US presidential election, to take into account the strategic environment and revised capability targets. Trump sent assurances to other leaders by affirming the US commitment to Article 5 of the NATO treaty.
I watched the heads of these countries get up, and the love and the passion that they showed for their country was unbelievable. I've never seen quite anything like it. They want to protect their country, and they need the United States. And without the United States, it's not going to be the same.
Danny Zhou, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that he won't rule out sending Ukraine more Patriot missile systems, adding that Russian President Vladimir Putin has to end that war. after an hour-long talk with Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the NATO summit in The Hague. Trump told reporters that Patriot missiles were very hard to get and left open the possibility of providing more military aid to Kyiv. Trump said it is time to end the war and that he will soon speak once more with Putin. Zelensky described the conversation as substantive and said they discussed Ukraine's purchase of U.S. anti-missile systems and co-producing combat drones. He later signed an agreement with the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, France, to set up a special tribunal to prosecute Russia's top officials responsible for the invasion of Ukraine. Legislation introduced Wednesday in the U.S. Congress by a bipartisan group of lawmakers will block Chinese artificial intelligence systems from federal agencies. The hearing comes after Chinese technology startup DeepSeek introduced an AI model that rivaled platforms from OpenAI and Google in performance, but cost only a fraction to build. Some federal agencies and several U.S. states have banned the use of DeepSeek on government devices. However, the latest bill would seek to ban all AI systems controlled by foreign adversaries from federal use. How much of this technology is currently being used by U.S. federal agencies and offices is unknown. The legislation would direct the Federal Acquisition Security Council to identify problematic AI systems. The proposal seeks to ban all use of the technology in the U.S. government, with exceptions for use in research and counterterrorism efforts. Still ahead, the chief executive says he's delighted to see Hong Kong and mainland residents getting closer. And a look at a green development investment in trade fair in Shanghai. Welcome back. As Chief Executive John Lee marks 3 years in office, he says he's delighted to see the frequent interaction between Hong Kong people and Guangdong residents. He also said the city should remain vigilant on the potential use of artificial intelligence, which may threaten national security. Samantha Lee reports.
The Information Services Department released footage of an interview with the Chief Executive John Lee, who looked back on his 3 years in office. He said people in Hong Kong and Guangdong used to reject each other, but are not getting closer. He said he is thrilled to see Hong Kongers making frequent northbound trips during weekends and long holidays. He suggested both places should collaborate more on technological innovation. With regards to safeguarding national security, the city leader believed the existing laws are enough to ensure stability for Hong Kong. However, he said the city should be vigilant on the potential use of artificial intelligence, which may threaten national security, given the rapid development of AI. He added that the government will continue to raise public awareness of national security through school education as well as public exhibitions. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The Education Bureau has reportedly informed schools about the risk of potentially breaching the national security law by attending U.S. National Day activities. Meanwhile, the U.S. Consul General in Hong Kong, Gregory May, said today the Consulate General will continue to engage with the public. Samantha Lowe has more.
Ahead of the U.S. National Day on the 4th of July, a reception was held by the U.S. Consul General Gregory May at a hotel in Central today. The event was attended by Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Algernon Yao. The Chinese national anthem was first played at the reception. Followed by the U.S. national anthem, as performed by Grammy winner Daniel Ho using the ukulele. After the reception, Gregory May said he will assume a new role as Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing.
I'm leaving Hong Kong a big fan of Hong Kong. Definitely, Hong Kong, our relationship with Hong Kong is an important component of the broader relationship with mainland China, but there's a lot of things that all of you know. You live here, are still different about Hong Kong, and that's why our consulate will operate.
May also responded to reports about the Education Bureau informing some schools in Hong Kong to ask students to avoid participating in U.S. Independence Day celebration events due to concerns over a possible breach of the national security law during such events.
I read that news and I was disappointed. The DNA of Hong Kong is to fearlessly engage with the outside world, and this has never come up, and it's certainly not the Hong Kong that I know from years past. Well, you can't be a super connector, if you don't allow your students to interact normally with, the consulates. You've all been here, and I challenge any of you to find anything about this event that's happened at the Murray Hotel this afternoon that would in any way violate the national security of any country.
The U.S. resumes processing student visa applications with the condition of social media vetting. May says that the consulate will make sure students obtain their required visas before the upcoming school year starts. Samantha Low, TVB News.
The Department of Health plans to set up Hong Kong's own regulatory body for medical products by the end of next year. The city will be able to approve new medicines based on local clinical data without relying on other regulatory authorities. Samantha Lee reports.
Currently, pharmaceutical companies have to present registration approval for their new medicines from at least one regulatory body on a list of reference places in order to be eligible to apply for registration in Hong Kong. The government is planning to establish the city's own Center for Medical Product Regulation by the end of next year at the earliest. This is part of the initiatives announced by the Chief Executive John Lee in his 2023 policy address to develop Hong Kong into an international health and medical innovation hub. During the first phase in 2026, the primary evaluation mechanism will begin with extended applications for registered chemical entities. The center aims to cover all new medicines and medical devices by 2030. Companies have to provide raw data for medicines, such as local clinical trial data.
For example, there are some eye drops which has already been used for the extend the pupil for the diagnostic use, but we know that these eye drops can be used for the slowing the progress of myopia. Okay, so when they try to add this new indication, they can use their own data to support for these already registered products because the safety is quite guaranteed.
The Department of Health said with the primary evaluation for all medical products in Hong Kong, residents can have more choices on medical products. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The Shanghai Green Development, Investment and Trade Fair has kicked off in the Chinese northwestern province's capital, Xining. The fair features not just green technology, but also Iranian traders who told TVB News their challenges amid sanctions and conflicts. Jackie Lin was there.
Shanghai, being the largest province of China, excluding autonomous regions by area, boasts extensive sunlight hours, rich solar resources, and sprawling grounds for wind farms, making it ideal for green energy development. Setting its sights on bringing its environmental strengths to the global stage, the province's 26th Green Development, Investment and Trade Fair kicked off in Xining for a 5-day run. Wu Xiaojun, Qinghai's party secretary, says the province hopes to power more digital infrastructure with its clean energy. Among the displays at the fair is a lineup of domestically made robots assisted by Qinghai-powered AI training. Qin Yulong, head of the Digital Economy Division of Qinghai's Provincial Data Bureau, said humanoid robots require electricity-intensive computing for training, and Qinghai's clean energy ensures uninterrupted power for AI development. Making its inaugural appearance is Mexico, which joins the global exhibitor lineup.
China has the power to sail not only to U.S., which is the main country in conflict, but there are a lot of opportunities that China can continue growing and continue developing.
Sanctions and conflict, meanwhile, have driven some Iranian traders to seek opportunities in the Chinese market.
Risks that the war situation created had severe effect on business for the past 12 days. However, it's not only war that is that's affecting our business. My country has been under sanctions for many years, almost 40 years, and these sanctions are so unfortunate because people who suffer are people like me who have nothing to do with politics. We are just working our lives. China has been a reliable partner. I am always impressed by how kindly the market received us here.
Over the past 25 years, the Qinghai Fair has facilitated the signing of projects involving more than 840 billion yuan in investment. The organizer also hopes that this year's edition will further promote international trade opportunities. Jackie Lin, TVB News, Qinghai.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.